Ambassador Haynewell looked out the window of her spaceship as it entered Earth's atmosphere. The blue planet grew larger with each passing moment. She felt heavy, much heavier than usual, as the ship's gravity adjusters slowly changed to match Earth's pull. Even with the gradual adjustment, her bones ached. "I don't understand how any intelligent life could develop in such crushing gravity," she said to her assistant, Taiwan, who was checking their landing coordinates. "The humans seem to manage well enough," Taiwan replied, his fingers moving quickly across the control panel. Unlike Haynewell, he had studied Earth's culture extensively and found humans fascinating. "Managing is not the same as thriving," Haynewell said. She straightened her ceremonial robes, trying to hide her discomfort. As a representative of the Galactic Council, she needed to look perfect for this first official meeting. Their ship landed smoothly on a large platform outside the United Earth Government building in Seoul. Haynewell took a deep breath and activated her support belt, a device that helped visitors from low-gravity worlds move around on Earth. Without it, she would barely be able to walk. The landing ramp lowered, and Earth's sunlight streamed in. Haynewell's first surprise came when she saw the welcoming party. They stood tall and straight, without any gravity support devices. The humans moved as if the crushing weight of their world meant nothing to them. Do-hyun, Earth's chief diplomat, stepped forward with a warm smile. He was a tall man with kind eyes and gray hair at his temples. "Ambassador Haynewell, welcome to Earth," he said, bowing slightly. "We hope your journey was comfortable." Haynewell bowed in return, grateful for the hours she had spent practicing this Earth greeting. "Thank you for your welcome, Diplomat Do-hyun. The journey was—" She paused, searching for the right word. "Educational." A movement caught her eye. Behind Do-hyun, a young woman was doing what humans called stretching. She bent and twisted with impossible ease, her body moving in ways that would shatter Haynewell's bones if she tried the same thing. Do-hyun noticed her staring. "Ah, that's my daughter, Sumin. She's preparing for a demonstration we thought might interest you." Sumin walked over to them, her movements smooth and controlled. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador," she said with a bright smile. "I hope you'll enjoy what we've prepared." They walked through the building, and Haynewell tried not to show how much effort each step took, even with her support belt. The humans led them to a large indoor space they called a gymnasium. The ceiling was high, and strange equipment filled the room. "Sumin is what we call an athlete," Do-hyun explained. "She competes in gymnastics at the highest level. We thought a demonstration might help you understand humans better." Haynewell sat down carefully in a specially reinforced chair. Taiwan sat beside her, already taking notes on his datapad. The lights dimmed slightly, and Sumin walked to the center of the room. What happened next changed Haynewell's understanding of humans forever. Sumin began to move. She ran, jumped, and spun through the air. Her body twisted and turned in ways that seemed to ignore gravity completely. She pushed off the ground and flew, spinning 3 times before landing perfectly. Each movement flowed into the next like water, but with power that Haynewell could feel from where she sat. "Impossible," Haynewell whispered. According to her gravity sensors, this room had no special adjustments. This human was performing these incredible feats under full Earth gravity. "Actually," Taiwan said quietly, "this is quite normal for human athletes. They can do even more impressive things in lower gravity environments." The demonstration ended, and Sumin wasn't even breathing hard. She walked over and bowed to Haynewell. "I hope you enjoyed the show, Ambassador." "How?" Haynewell asked before she could stop herself. "How can you move like that under such gravity?" Do-hyun smiled. "This is normal for us, Ambassador. Earth's gravity shaped us, made us strong. But more importantly, it taught us to adapt, to overcome challenges. What you saw today wasn't just about physical strength. It was about human determination and creativity." As they walked to the conference room for their official meeting, Haynewell's mind raced. She had come to Earth expecting to find a struggling species, barely able to move under their world's crushing gravity. Instead, she had found something much more interesting, and perhaps a little frightening. In the conference room, Newell noticed something else. The humans had prepared everything perfectly for her comfort. The chair was reinforced, the temperature was adjusted to her species' preference, and they had even installed gravity reducers near her seat. They had thought of everything, showing both intelligence and consideration. "Before we begin," Do-hyun said, "I want to be clear about something. We know many in the Galactic Council think Earth's gravity makes us primitive or limited. We hope today's demonstration showed you that our gravity isn't a weakness. It's one of our greatest strengths." Hanul looked at her notes, then at the confident faces around her. She thought about Su-min's amazing performance and the casual way these humans moved in conditions that would cripple most species. There was clearly much more to learn about humans. "I think," she said carefully, "that I need to revise many of my assumptions about humans. Please, tell me more about your people." Do-hyun smiled again, and Newell realized something important. The humans hadn't just been showing off their physical abilities. They had planned this entire morning perfectly to change her perspective. They were much cleverer than anyone had suspected. As the meeting began, Newell sent a quick message to the Galactic Council. "Initial assessment of humans needs complete revision. They are not limited by their gravity. They have mastered it. Recommend careful attention to this species. They are full of surprises." Taiwan caught her eye and nodded slightly. He had known all along that there was something special about humans. Now Newell was starting to understand too. This was going to be a very interesting assignment indeed. The real question wasn't how humans survived in Earth's gravity. The question was, what else were they capable of? As Newell listened to Do-hyun explain human history and achievements, she had a feeling she was about to find out. The news spread quickly through the Galactic Council's space station. Earth wasn't just asking to join the spacefaring community. They were excelling in all the initial tests. Commander Kyung-ho watched the latest reports with growing concern from his private office. "This cannot continue," he said to his advisors. The room was set to 1/3 of Earth's gravity, which most species found comfortable. If humans join the Council with their full abilities, the balance of power will shift. He stood up and walked to the large window overlooking the docking bay. 3 Earth ships had arrived that morning, their design unlike anything in the Council's fleet. They were built to withstand much greater pressures than other species' vessels needed. "We need to challenge them properly," Kyung-ho said. "Something that will show everyone their true limitations." He turned to his chief strategist. "Prepare the trial worlds." Meanwhile, on Earth, Newell sat in Do-hyun's office, looking uncomfortable. "I'm sorry," she said. "Commander Kyung-ho has convinced the Council to require additional tests. He says it's only fair to see how humans perform in different gravity environments." Do-hyun smiled calmly. "We expected something like this. What are the tests?" 3 trials on 3 different worlds," Newell explained. "The first on Heavy World, with gravity twice that of Earth. The second on Light World, with 1/10 of Earth's gravity. The third on Variable World, where gravity changes unexpectedly." Taiwan, who was present as always, looked worried. These worlds were chosen to be especially challenging. No other species has ever completed all 3 trials. Do-hyun pressed a button on his desk. "Jae-yun, please come in." The door opened, and a woman walked in. She moved with the quiet grace of a predator. And Newell noticed she wore no gravity support belt despite the room being set to Earth normal gravity. "Ambassador Newell, this is Captain Jae-yun," Do-hyun said. "She will lead our trial team." Jae-yun bowed slightly. "I understand you have some tests for us." Newell explained the trials again. With each word, she expected to see worry on Jae-yun's face. Instead, the captain looked increasingly interested. "Heavy World sounds fun," Jae-yun said. "We've been training in higher gravity environments for months. And Light World, perfect for our new movement techniques." Hanul blinked in surprise. You've been training, but you didn't know about the trials until now. Of course we've been training, Jai-yun said. We're human. We prepare for everything. The next week, Hanul watched as Jai-yun's team prepared for departure. There were 5 of them. Jai-yun, the leader, Woo-jin, the technology expert, Mai-rae, the medical officer, Jun-seo, the navigation specialist, and Yuna, the combat expert. They loaded their equipment into their ship, moving easily despite the heavy gear. Hanul noticed something odd about their suits. Those aren't standard gravity compensation suits, she said to Ta-won. No, he replied. The humans designed their own. They said our suits were too limiting. The first trial was on Heavy World. When they landed, Hanul expected the humans to struggle. The gravity here was twice Earth's, enough to pin down most species. But Jai-yun's team stepped out of their ship without hesitation. It's like wearing a heavy backpack, Jun-seo said, jumping slightly to test the gravity. Not too bad. The trial involved crossing dangerous terrain to reach a distant point. Other species had tried using vehicles or robots. Jai-yun's team walked. They moved carefully but steadily, using tools they had designed themselves. When they reached a wide crack in the ground, they worked together to build a bridge. When they faced a steep cliff, they climbed it, securing each other with ropes. They're not just strong, Ta-won said as they watched. Look how they work together, how they solve problems. Hanul was looking. She saw how each team member had different skills, but worked perfectly together. They didn't just overcome obstacles, they helped each other overcome them. The second trial on Light World was even more surprising. In the low gravity, most species moved awkwardly, bouncing too high or floating out of control. Jai-yun's team had practiced for this too. They used small jets on their suits to control their movement. They had developed a new way of walking that worked in low gravity. When they needed to cross a large gap, they turned it into a game, calling it space jumping. How are they adapting so quickly? One of Kyung-ho's observers asked. They're not adapting now, Hanul realized. They adapted long ago. It's what humans do. They see a challenge and prepare for it before it becomes a problem. The team completed the second trial in record time. But everyone knew the real challenge would be Variable World, where gravity could change at any moment. Before they left for the third trial, Hanul received a secret message from her sources in the council. She learned that Kyung-ho had ordered the gravity changes on Variable World to be more extreme than usual. He was determined to see the humans fail. She hurried to warn Do-hyun, feeling worried about Jai-yun's team. But when she reached his office, she found him smiling. We already know, he said. We have friends in the council too. And don't worry about Jai-yun's team. They'd been practicing for exactly this situation. How could they practice for random gravity changes? Hanul asked. Do-hyun's smile grew wider. Who said they were random? We studied the patterns. Humans are very good at finding patterns, Ambassador. And once we find them, we can prepare for them. As Hanul left his office, she thought about everything she had learned about humans. They didn't just face challenges, they anticipated them. They didn't just solve problems, they prepared solutions in advance. And most importantly, they worked together, making their individual strengths into something even greater. The final trial would begin tomorrow. Hanul had a feeling it would show everyone something new about humans. She just hoped Kyung-ho was ready for what he would see. Because one thing was becoming very clear. Earth's gravity hadn't limited humans. It had prepared them for exactly this moment. Variable World lived up to its name. Its surface was covered in metal platforms and strange machines that could change the gravity in any area at any time. Jai-yun's team stood at the starting point, checking their equipment one last time. Remember your training, Jai-yun said to her team. Trust your instincts, watch the patterns, and stay together. Hanul watched from the observation room with Ta-won and several council members. Commander Kyung-ho stood near the control panel, trying to hide his smile. He had spent hours programming the gravity changes himself. "The trial begins in 1 minute," announced the computer voice. "The goal is to reach the marker point while collecting 5 data crystals along the way. Good luck." Jae-yun looked at her team. Woo Jin adjusted something on his wrist computer. Mi-rae checked her medical kit one more time. Jun Seo studied his map, while Yuna stretched her muscles. "Begin," said the computer. The humans started moving just as the first gravity change hit. The ground under them suddenly had 3 times Earth's gravity. Most species would have been crushed. The humans just lowered their stance and kept going. "Look at their formation," Ta-won said quietly to Hae-nul. "They're not just walking randomly." He was right. The team moved in a special pattern. Jun Seo was in front, watching the ground ahead. Woo Jin was next, holding some kind of scanning device. The others formed a triangle behind them. The gravity shifted again, this time to nearly 0. The humans were ready. They used small hooks to catch onto the metal floor, moving like mountain climbers across a ceiling. "Impossible," one council member whispered. "They're adapting too quickly." But Hae-nul was starting to understand. "They're not adapting," she said. "They're following a plan." Look at Woo Jin's device. The technology expert was indeed doing something unusual. Every time before the gravity changed, his device lit up. The team would shift position slightly, and when the change came, they were ready. "They've broken the pattern," Kyung-ho said suddenly. His face had lost its smile. "They've figured out how to predict the changes." The team reached the first data crystal. The gravity in that area was shifting randomly between very heavy and very light. Yuna moved forward, timing her steps perfectly between the changes. She grabbed the crystal and returned to the group without missing a beat. "Second crystal ahead," Jun Seo called out. "The ground's unstable." He was right. The metal platforms in that area were breaking apart. Combined with the changing gravity, it looked impossible to cross. But the humans had trained for this too. They linked themselves together with smart ropes, cables that could adjust their length automatically. When the gravity went low, they used the ropes to control their jumps. When it went high, they pulled each other to safety. In the observation room, more council members were arriving. Word had spread that something unusual was happening on Variable World. They watched as the human team collected the 3rd and 4th crystals, working together in ways no one had seen before. "What are they doing now?" someone asked. Woo Jin had connected his device to the crystals they had collected. Data flowed across his screen. "The patterns are changing," he announced to his team. "They're not random anymore. Someone's controlling them manually." All eyes in the observation room turned to Kyung-ho. He stood at the control panel, his fingers moving quickly. The gravity changes became more extreme, more unpredictable. But something strange was happening. The harder Kyung-ho made the challenges, the better the humans seemed to work together. They adapted their formation, changed their tactics, and kept moving forward. "This is why they're dangerous," Kyung-ho said suddenly. "Don't you all see? They don't just deal with problems. They learn from them. They get stronger. If we let them join the council, nothing will ever be the same." Hae-nul stood up. "You're right, Commander. Nothing will be the same. But isn't that exactly what we need?" On the trial field, Jae-yun's team had reached the final crystal. It was suspended in an area where gravity changed every few seconds. The changes were now completely random, impossible to predict. "Time to show them what humans can really do," Jae-yun said. She looked at her team. "Ready?" They moved as one. When gravity went high, they supported each other. When it went low, they used their momentum like dancers. They didn't fight the changes. They flowed with them, using each shift to move closer to their goal. "It's beautiful," Ta-won said softly. "They've turned it into an art." The final crystal came free just as Kyung-ho hit the emergency button. All gravity on the field disappeared. He thought this would stop them, but he was wrong again. The humans used their suits' small jets to push off from each other. They formed a living chain, passing the crystal from hand to hand until they reached the finish point. As soon as they crossed the line, normal gravity returned. In the silence that followed, Newell stood up. "I need to send my report to the council," she said. "I finally understand what makes humans different. It's not that they're stronger or smarter. It's that they never stop learning, never stop helping each other, never stop trying to be better." She looked at Kyung-ho. "You tried to prove they were limited by their world's gravity. Instead, you proved that gravity was just their first teacher. It taught them that any challenge can be overcome if you work together and never give up." The human team was celebrating below, hugging each other and laughing. They had made one of the hardest trials in the galaxy look like a well-practiced dance. "There's something else," Taiwan added. "Something in my research that I never understood until today. Humans have a saying, the harder the struggle, the greater the triumph. They don't just face challenges, they welcome them. Because every challenge makes them stronger." Newell looked at the celebrating humans, then at the shocked faces of the council members. She smiled. "I think it's time for the galaxy to learn some new lessons, and I can't think of better teachers than humans." The observation room slowly emptied as people left to spread the news. Only Kyung-ho remained, staring at the control panel. He had tried to prove humans were weak. Instead, he had helped them show just how strong they really were. And this was only the beginning. The observation station above Variable World was unusually busy. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy had gathered to watch the recordings of the human team's performance. Among them stood Do-hyun, who had arrived to represent Earth at the emergency council meeting. Newell found him standing by a window, watching the planet below. "Your team did more than just complete the trials," she said. "They changed how the entire galaxy sees humans." Do-hyun smiled. "That was always the plan. But something's wrong, isn't it? I can see it in your face." Before Newell could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Taiwan ran up to them, holding his datapad. "The station's gravity controls are failing," he said, his voice urgent. "Someone sabotaged them. The whole station will lose gravity in 10 minutes, and the backup systems aren't responding." Do-hyun's smile disappeared. "Where is Jae-yun's team?" "Still on Variable World. Their ship is having engine problems, also sabotage." Newell felt her heart sink. The station had over 300 visitors, many from low-gravity worlds. If the gravity failed suddenly, there would be chaos. Many could be hurt or killed. "We need to evacuate," a council member shouted. "Get to the escape pods." But Do-hyun was already speaking into his communicator. "Sumin, are you in position?" His daughter's voice came through clearly. "Yes, father. Our ship is ready to help. But we'll need time to evacuate everyone." "Time we don't have," Taiwan said. "The gravity will fail in 9 minutes now." That's when they heard a new voice. "Maybe you don't have time," Jae-yun said through the communication system. "But we can give you some." Newell rushed to a window. Below, on Variable World, she could see Jae-yun's team running toward the gravity control center, the huge building that controlled both the planets and the station's gravity. "What are they doing?" someone asked. "The gravity down there is still changing randomly." "Not randomly," Woo Jin's voice came through. "We learned the patterns, remember?" "Jun Seo, what do you see?" The navigation specialist was studying his portable screens. "The control center has 5 levels. We need to reach the main computer on level 3. The team moved like they had practiced this 100 times. They hadn't, of course. They were making up the plan as they went. But that was what humans did best: adapt and overcome. In the station, Do-hyun organized the evacuation. Su-min's ship can carry 100 people. 2 more Earth ships are 8 minutes away. We need to get the most vulnerable people out first. Newell watched in amazement as the humans took charge. They didn't panic. They didn't fight over who would leave first. Instead, they worked together, helping those who needed it most. On the surface, Jia Yun's team reached the control center. The gravity was shifting wildly now, changing every few seconds. But they had learned from their trial. They used the same techniques, the same teamwork, but faster and more smoothly than before. 6 minutes until total gravity failure, Ta-Wan announced. Jia Yun's voice crackled through the system. Wu Jin, how much time do you need once we reach the computer? 2 minutes to stop the failure. Another 3 to restore normal gravity control. Then we'd better hurry, Jia Yun said. The team fought their way up through the building. When the gravity went high, they supported each other. When it went low, they used it to move faster. They'd reached level 3 with 4 minutes remaining. But someone was waiting for them. I should have known, Jia Yun said, facing Commander Kyung-ho. He stood between them and the main computer. Humans cannot be allowed to join the council, he said. You're too unpredictable, too adaptable. You'll change everything. Change isn't always bad, Mayray said. Look around you. Everyone up there is working together now, helping each other, learning from each other. Isn't that what the council is supposed to be about? 3 minutes, came Ta-Wan's voice. Kyung-ho looked at his control pad, then at the humans. He could change the gravity in this room to crush them. He could stop them right here. You're right about one thing, Jia Yun said quietly. We will change things, but not by forcing our way. By showing that different species can work together, help each other, make each other better. She held out her hand. Starting right now. For a long moment, Kyung-ho stood still. Then, slowly, he stepped aside. 2 minutes, he said. Show me what humans can really do. Wu Jin rushed to the computer. His fingers flew over the controls while the others protected him from the changing gravity. In the station above, He Newell watched as the evacuation continued. Humans were everywhere, helping people stay calm, making sure no one was left behind. Gravity control restored, Wu Jin announced with 30 seconds to spare. The station is safe. The cheers that filled the station weren't just for the saved lives. They were for something bigger, something that everyone had learned today. Later, at the council meeting, He Newell stood to give her final report. The room was packed with representatives from every world. We thought Earth's gravity made humans strong, she said. We were wrong. It wasn't the gravity. It was how they responded to it. Humans don't just survive challenges. They learn from them, grow from them, and most importantly, they face them together. She looked at Jia Yun's team, standing proudly in their Earth uniforms. Today they showed us that again. When faced with a crisis, they didn't think about themselves. They thought about how to help others. That's not just strength, that's wisdom. The vote that followed was unanimous. Earth would join the Galactic Council, with full rights and responsibilities. As people filed out of the room, He Newell overheard Mireille talking to a group of young aliens. Want to know the real secret? She was saying. It's not about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about never stopping, never giving up, and always helping each other. Do Hyun stood next to He Newell, watching the scene. You know, he said, Earth's gravity taught us our first lessons about overcoming challenges, but it was just the beginning. There's so much more we can all learn from each other. He Newell smiled. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what it needed. Because in the end, it wasn't Earth's gravity that made humans special. It was their heart, their determination, and their unshakable belief that together, any challenge could be overcome. The future would have plenty of challenges, but now humans and aliens would face them together. And that would make all the difference.